'Cause I'm yours to keep if you want to.
You're the fucking best with that stuff, dude. Okay, let's jump into it. Normally how I started out is literally just, what is your full name?
My name is Nathan A. Fox.
You named after anybody?
No.
Okay.
No.
Where are you from?
Scottsdale, Pennsylvania.
Okay. How long did you live there?
Till I was 18?
Okay.
17, 18?
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought you were Ohio.
And then I went to Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I went to, well, no. I lived in PA, and then I went to college in PA.
Okay.
For like a year and a half, maybe? Something like that.
What was it like growing up in... Ooh, excuse me. What was it like growing up in Pennsylvania?
I don't think I realized it then, but I realize it now that was a very unique upbringing as far as sense of community and tightness in like neighbors and stuff like that. Like it was such a juxt to go from Scottsdale to Cleveland.
Oh, wow.
Because I wasn't like I was in like suburbs. I was in downtown Cleveland. I stayed at the at Viking Hall or the Woolstein Center, right across from the Woolstein Center. You know where that is?
I haven't been to...
You know where Peabody's is?
Yes.
You ever been to Peabody's? Yeah. So like right across the alley, that big ass tower that's there. That's a Cleveland State housing building, and so that shit was like right in downtown. And so to go from a place like, I didn't lock my car. We barely locked our house unless like we left like on vacation, you know? And
That's how I grew up.
Yeah, right. So it was like, I didn't realize at the time that was
Not
very
how you
special
live.
and very unique and not the way the world worked,
Yeah.
you know? And luckily I ran into all the right people at all the right times that like really explained things to me and gave me like, not just like what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know, but like, yo, this is why you have to do this, and this is why you do this, and this is like, you know what I mean? Like, really walked me through it. There was this dude that I met in Cleveland. His name was Wayne, and he was pretty much like, I consider him like my OG, because like I had done some sessions. I was interning for this dude that was one of the teachers at the school. And he would get all these rappers come in, and he was like some 50-year-old white dude. And so the communication barriers were like pretty drastic, especially when it came to like the music.
Sure.
And so a lot of times like I would kind of work as an in-between, you know, like sometimes when people don't know what to say, like if they don't know how to say like add a delay, they'd be like, yeah, make it like, you know what I mean? Like they'll just kind of do like a motion or something like that. So you know what I mean? And for him, it was like, he was just an old dude, and he just was kind of like mean and like, you know what I mean? So he would just get frustrated hella all the time. So I would try to act as like a third party, you know? And then eventually people like kind of caught on like, well, why don't we just work with you? Where's your studio at? And I'm like, I don't have a studio. So I started running shit out of my dorm room at whatever. And these dudes came through, Young Pimp, and what was oh man, he's going to be so mad at me. I hope he doesn't see this. Sorry. And then Wayne, whatever. They had like a group. And Wayne didn't do anything. He wasn't like a rapper or a singer. He was just like the homie. And I think eventually he kind of caught on that like, I was a nice dude that was hella talented, and like and also like just from hanging out, like, oh, I'm not from here.
Yeah.
I think he was like, oh, you're gonna get fucked up out here if you operate the way that you operate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So he would like after sessions and stuff, we would like just go on like smoke rides and shit, and he would drive me around the city, and like we would listen to songs, and like he noticed that like I knew all the words to all these songs, and he was like, do you even know what any of this shit means? And I was like, no. And he was like, all right, well, when they say this, that means that. here's that right there, you know, and like take me and show me that shit and give me his stories and like, you know what I mean, all that stuff, and like really like invited me into a greater understanding of like something that I already was like fucking with, and like but I didn't know like why I was fucking with it. It was just like cool, you know. But then he started to give me way more explanation behind everything, and it just made everything like, it made me care so much more about the history of it and like where everything comes from and the inspirations that people take from and like just all that kind of shit, you know.
Sure.
So
that's awesome.
But but to answer your question, Scottsdale, Pennsylvania. Loved growing up there.
What kind of stuff were you into as a kid?
Sports, being outside.
Anything in particular, like baseball, basketball?
I played soccer all my life.
Okay, sick.
Up into college and shit.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Was this something you ever thought about trying to take into like a professional career?
Yeah, so there was a moment when I was kind of like, I was playing, I was like not trying out, but I was like going to like do practices with a bunch of different schools because our soccer team in high school was really good. So we got a lot of people looking at us. So, you know, a lot of people asked me to come just practice around, just like, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I realized real quick that like I was just as good as everybody, but they were just bigger.
Sure.
And stronger.
Sure.
And like I could never make myself just like bigger. And I was like, I'm not Messi. You know, like I'm not like some gifted crazy, you know, plus we're in American soccer. So I was like, how much struggle is it going to entail for me to try to be successful?
Sure.
And what does success mean in this sport, in this country, you know? And I was like, man, I ain't got it in me.
Yeah.
I just don't even got it in me. Like the music calls me way more than that does, you know? Like I'll struggle for however long I got to struggle with the music, but this shit, no, hell no. I'm not getting up at 6 a.m. every morning.
Yeah, working out
like fucking crazy, getting beat up. Like I'm just not doing that shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't cool.
What kind of stuff were you into, like even for school, early years?
School was always like history, English.
Okay.
You know.
Yeah.
I always wrote a lot. Did a lot of like poetry and like short stories, and I always gravitated towards that stuff. But it was like the science and math and shit like that just made me hate school in general.
Yeah.
You know, because it was always
requirements. Some subjects,
too. And I was like, well, what if I don't want that?
Yeah.
What if I don't want algebra?
Yeah.
What if just basic arithmetic is good for me?
Yeah. No, it's not.
Apparently not. You know, I don't use much algebra.
Yeah. I use none. I use no algebra.
Yeah, I certainly don't. I would say I don't even know what that shit really means. Like,
yeah.
What is algebra? What is calculus? Like, what's the...
Beyond me, that was where I tapped out. I love math. I liked math as a subject. I like mental math. I like shorthand math. I like thinking about numbers because I like the way that they actually work in resulting in an answer, and trying to come up with like shorthand mental math of like, how do you do 17 times 37, you know, and like work out. That's just how my brain always like worked, you know, made more sense to me than trying to remember historic things or like trying to just like pound shit into my brain to like recall later. You know. And my memory is just absolute dog shit. So it never helped.
I liked the word problems.
Yeah
because I felt like I could bring in intangibles and bullshit my way to having the right answer, even though there was clearly like the answer was 9 or something. I'd be like, well, you know, what kind of truck was it? You know, what was the road conditioning like? You know, I was like, it's not being specific enough.
Yeah,
you know?
It's not straightforward. We got to account for all these.
We got to account for all these things. And it's just not enough information for me to make these calculations. I'm sorry. I'll take an A, though.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Did you travel at all growing up?
Yeah. My dad, he worked hard to make sure that, you know, there was always a vacation.
Cool.
At least once a year. And
did you guys go to the same place every year, or you went to different places?
Different places.
Nice.
Which is another reason I fucked with that, was like...
Yeah.
He was like, all right, well, we did the beach last year, you know, let's go mountains this year. Or, you know, we did overseas last year, let's stay in the States this year. You know, whatever. Sure. Like, I think that was like... That was really important to him. It was like we were just like, yay, vacation.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it was important to him as far as like being able to show us things outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know? Like meet people that we wouldn't meet in
Yeah.
Scottsdale, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it changes your life. Traveling, especially younger, is like such an eye-opening thing to just seeing how the world works.
Yeah, and they were good with us too. Like they weren't too, helicopter parents. You know, like they gave us the information and then trusted us to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Not that we always did the right thing, but
Yeah,
they at least gave us that opportunity
sure.
to do the right thing. And I think that was like a really cool thing that they did on vacations in foreign places or like, far off places where it's like they're not as in control like in our tight knit community, and they're still willing to like trust their 12-year-old son to like, not get in a car with a stranger or do some goofy shit.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite place that stands out from any of the places you guys went when you were
From
growing
the
up?
family vacations?
Yeah.
We went to Mazatlan in Mexico.
Nice.
That stood out a lot to me. At least I have strong like visual memories. One, there was like we went and did a bunch of like ruins and temple sites.
Sure.
And at first, it was like, oh, all right, Dad, like we'll go on this fucking, thing with you, whatever. But then by the end of it, like once you see it all and you realize how much before you this happened.
Yeah.
I think that by the end of that trip, I felt a lot more sense of like urgency to do what I cared about. And
sure.
You know what I mean? Because the time that we have is so blip in comparison to like, a Mayan culture who existed for thousands and thousands of years. And then could still exist. We don't know. We're not. Yeah. We don't need to go into all that. This isn't Joe Rogan, but
that's awesome.
Yeah,
man.
no, I think that trip was really cool, and they gave me and my brother a lot of leniency on that trip, and we got into some shenanigans, and we kind of got in a little bit of dangerous situation, but like we worked our way out of it, and like you know what I mean, whatever.
Yeah.
It was just like it was just like stuff like that. It was just like cool little experiences in that trip.
Sure.
That like helped to kind of grow me up.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. What was your first job?
My very first job was washing dishes at a Mennonite church camp.
Okay. How old were you?
14.
Okay. Was that something like you went out and applied for?
Hell no.
Okay.
My dad was like, nah, you gotta go get a job.
Okay.
He's like, you be sitting around playing video games and shit, go get a job.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not giving you no more money or allowance or none of that shit. Like, go get a job. I'm like, all right. And then he had become Mennonite. Not in the sense of like wearing a bonnet and shit like that, but like more modern Mennonites, I guess.
Okay.
And they had some church camp that was like near the crib, so he would just drop me off, or mom would drop me off, or whatever, and I just sit in there and wash dishes with these old ladies for 2-3 hours, and $50 or something. I don't even remember how much it was at the time. Probably not shit.
Yeah. But, when you're a kid, it's like more about the principle of just getting into work and starting to learn that that's part of our reality we got to do.
I definitely didn't look at it like that at the time. I was just like, let me get some cash.
Yeah.
Whatever.
What was after that?
It was like a slew of kind of things, I think, as we all do between, 15 to 17 type shit. It was like worked at Chuck E. Cheese at one point. I worked a couple years as a late night custodian handyman at a nursing home.
Oh wow.
That was a lot of great life lessons too. They had a memory impaired unit. So a lot of people with like dementia and Alzheimer's and things like that. And that was a super humbling place to like, especially as a high school kid, where it's you think you know everything about everything, and like your life is the most important thing and everything revolves around you. Not to say that like I didn't feel like that at the time, but it was definitely something that changed me into being like, okay, there's a lot more to this than, some girl didn't want to go to the dance with me or some shit. You know what I mean? Like life is going to be a lot more than that. And I could end up here at some point.
Yeah.
So, you know, another just another thing that like happened early on that was like, yo, whatever you want to do, like you should probably just do that. 'Cause,
Yeah.
like shit's going to go one way or the other regardless.
Yeah. And then what about after kind of like that 15 to 17 period?
And then after that, I got out of high school and got an apartment with my homie and just
Still in Pennsylvania?
shenanigans. Yeah, just absolute debacle. Because, you know, like we had just got out of high school. So it's like we still knew everybody in high school, but then we had a bunch of homies in college and like we could just basically like party and work. And that's basically all we did for like a year. And then my dad, again, was like, bro, do something with your fucking life. And he's the guy that found the school in Cleveland, the Recording Arts School at the community college that was funded by the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So it had great gear, great teachers, you know, good rooms, like new tech. Like it was really, really nice. And then when I did that, I just did work study. So basically it was like I got paid to just be at the studio.
Yeah.
You know?
Nice.
And then I realized really fast too that the guys there were like all old head engineers that like would do their class and then go to their studio. So it was basically just me
having like full
to
access.
just fuck around. Yeah. With like everything, you know? And I did.
When did music come into your life? Was it big like throughout like growing up? Like did you or your brother or your dad, anybody have like a initial aha moment for you, like sharing music with you and you just being like, oh my God, this? Or did people in your family create music? Did anybody play, sing?
There's a lot of music influence. My mom's favorite story to tell me or tell people when they ask like how Nate got into music or whatever is she said that when I was still in the womb, I was really super chill, like no like kicking or you know, none of that kind of stuff until we would go to church and they would start playing music and then I would start to kick or, you know, move around or whatever. And I was like, oh, that's cool. That's a cool story. But music has always, I think, been the very first memory that I can like really remember, like having a personal experience with music was we had a house in Scottsdale before we moved to the next house. And right across the street was a Baptist church, like the only Baptist church in like a proper Southern Baptist church too, like in like hundreds of mile radius. So people would come from all over and they would in the summertime leave the windows open of the church and the music would just be smacking. Yeah. And I remember just like sitting outside and like sometimes like I would just be playing soccer, but I would remember there would be specific times where it's like I couldn't even help myself but to stop moving and to just sit in the lawn and just like listen because it was just like so powerful.
Yeah.
And it was so like, and there wasn't anybody like playing instruments. There was like a pianist, maybe an organist. Yeah. And like just everybody singing though, which was so strange to me because like when I went to church, when we went to Mennonite church, anytime there would be songs, there'd maybe be like 10 of the 100 people there singing along, you know what I mean? And everybody else was just kind of like,
yeah.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But it's like people were in that bitch
giving everything.
Yeah, like I'm here to perform.
Yeah.
Like this is my performance to God right now.
Yeah.
And everybody was like so tapped in and I just was mesmerized. Like I just didn't understand what was happening. I was like, how?
Yeah.
You know? And then it just kept happening. And then my dad got me, well, it was really my dad and my mom, a CD player for Christmas.
Okay.
And they got me 3 CDs. And I think this is pretty telling to like just my in general taste in music. One was the Beatles' Let It Be album. The other 2 were Michael Jackson's Dangerous and Kenny G's self-titled album.
Wow. That's a crazy.
Yeah, I was like, that's a pretty.
How old were you?
Maybe like 13. 12, maybe something, 12, 13, you know?
Sick.
And it was like.
Yeah.
What? It was like so. But then, like, that got me on that train. You remember the fucking, like, CD warehouse and Columbia House and stuff where you, like, bought 1 CD and then you got, like, 12 for free?
No.
Oh, okay. So, how old are you?
33.
I'm 35, so
Yeah, should have been.
Yeah, so
I mean, I like where I grew up in Utah. We were pretty disconnected.
Oh, you're from Utah?
Yeah, like
Oh, yeah,
I'm
no, you
pretty
didn't
like
have that.
disconnected
No,
from
you didn't
music.
have that.
Yeah, I mean, like I grew up in a ski bum small city, so it's like there wasn't even really radio, so I kind of missed out on like that whole experience growing up. You know,
Yeah.
like most popular music, I'm not actually familiar with at all.
Yeah.
Like I would get a CD or burn CDs with friends, or eventually get like a mini disc player. And I would just gravitate to like a single song and then play that motherfucker like 500 times. And it just, I don't know why that became my way of bonding with music. You know, I mean, now it makes more sense like that I can enjoy like the craft of like recording or mixing a song and like listening to it a lot or listening to a specific section a lot. But growing up, it was like kind of like what was in like the small available pool of things to listen to, you know, more so than, if anything, it was like getting like now CDs, you know, where it's like you get like a mix of like a bunch of different songs.
And then now, no. So the CD warehouse thing was like these big magazines.
Okay.
And they would come like once a month, and then they would have like different genres and new releases or whatever, and you would just check. Like I think it was like 13 or 14, and it was like $20. It was crazy, but the finesse was like you would just, because they would want you to do like a subscription, like buy so many after you got the free ones,
sure,
you know, type shit. And the finesse was just to like change your name every time and like, get all the free ones and only pay for one, you know. But like I remember most of the times I didn't really like look up the albums. I loved being surprised. Like I would pick stuff based on their covers, you know.
It's such an interesting way to find and discover music. Like I've been dating this girl for the last few months who loves vinyl.
Same.
And she like actually loves going to a store and like digging for stuff.
Yeah.
And like I've actually connected with a handful of people who follow that still.
Have you guys gone down to Delicious yet?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, for Delicious Pizza on Sunset, or are you talking
I'm
about
talking
the
about the
actual
vinyl shop?
They have like a little small like selection at Delicious Pizza. On
Yeah, no,
Sunset,
I'm saying
but
the
no,
upstairs.
haven't been. No.
It's still like private.
I'm
like,
not sure.
It's like by appointment, I think.
Is it on Sunset? Is it still that
Yeah,
same
yeah.
area?
It's
just
right next to
upstairs?
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's just you go, you know, that little gated stair?
Yeah.
There, it's up top.
Yeah, no, I haven't. I mean, dude, I have behind all of these records like hundreds of vinyl in here that I haven't even gotten into. You know, I just happened to buy like at one point in time, I think it was like the Stanton vinyl. I was looking for, I've always been trying to find the best vehicle to tempo and pitch change music, whether that meant I had to export something like a vocal to do it on a third party device because it does it better, because I still feel like, I mean, I've been doing music for 18 years and I still feel like pitch correcting has not evolved that much, you know, like after you get to, like, if you get to like a full semitone, you're generally like, or a full octave, you're pretty strung out. Like the technical quality of it is just
the artifacts
are just significant, and it's like still to this day. But those Stanton turntables, I'm pretty sure it was, or I'm trying to remember if that was a company, you could drop like 50% speed or pitch either way, and it was like fucking perfect. And so found those on Craigslist, and the guy when I got there was like, hey, I'm moving and I have like all these records and I can't bring them with me. Like I don't have room. Do you want them for like $50 or like $100?
Wow.
And it was like 400 pieces of vinyl.
Yeah.
You know, the guy was basically just like, I'm just giving up on DJing, you know? So I still honestly have to go through, I've been bringing records over to her place and we just sit in the living room and just listen, just like going through random things I never heard before. And it's so cool. Yeah. It's so cool, man. And she got me really geeked out on it from this book that she bought. That's like famous artists that have done vinyl albums for people over the course of like the last 50 years, and like famous designers that were brought in to do album covers. And it's just like a book of vinyl. So it's just like, we just literally will put
I got one of those
record on and flip through that shit. And you're just like, no way. Keith Haring did this and Basquiat did that and Andy Warhol did this. And it's just like, that's been inspiring for me to try to figure out what's our modern version to bring that back to life and like give people artistic, like vinyl artwork that you want to like hang on your wall. Cause it's just like so rad.
Yeah.
You know, because I feel like we don't have a lot of that. You know,
Yeah.
just to go on a random
you're
tangent.
No, you're right. I mean, that's why people still press vinyl.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Like.
And there's something so enjoyable about like the mechanical function of like literally just like taking like an actual record and just being like, oh, cool, I'm going to put this on here and I'm going to fucking move the arm on and here, and, you know.
Watch it spin.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah. Anyway.
Feels like you can feel it a little bit more.
Yeah. So you were getting CD warehouse CDs.
Yeah.
And that just started to build out.
Yeah, and then one day in junior high, a friend of mine was like, yo, do you want to come stay over tonight and make a rap song?
Okay.
And I was like, I don't know how to do that, but yeah, definitely. So we spent all night learning how to operate Wave Recorder.
Okay.
Which kind of was like a cassette, you know, just a digital cassette. So it just had record, play, forward, back.
On a computer, or what is this?
Yeah, this would have been like Windows 2000 maybe.
Cool.
So, and the computer used to come with like one of those like stick mics, like a Bob Barker
type,
you know, thing. And so we had to figure out the distance. We had to download an instrumental from Napster, burn it to a CD, steal his sister's CD player because it was portable, and then figure out how far away the music and us had to be to balance with this Bob Barker microphone.
Sick.
So we were up till like 3 a.m. trying to put all that together. We put it all together and we sent it to our homie Adam Buzzco, and he hit us back and he was like, "Hey, this is kind of decent." And I was like, "That's it. I'm in it. I'm cool. I'll do this." Were
you rapping?
Forever. Yeah.
Nice.
For sure.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had a collective of people, 3 or 4 of us.
How old were you at that time?
Like 14, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, junior high.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
So then from that point, are you starting to see yourself like, oh, cool, I'm going to
I was like, I'm doing this forever.
Was it, I'm going to be a rapper, I love doing this? Was it like, how else can I make my own music? Like, how did that evolve, I guess?
Yeah, I mean, what happened was we kept rapping and all this stuff, and then like at a certain point, we just ran out of beats to download from the internet. So one of us had to learn how to make beats.
Yeah.
I was like, it's me. I read an article in XXL where Ninth Wonder talked about using a program called Fruity Loops. And I was like, okay. So my other homie was really good with computers, so he, you know, acquired it. And we acquired some other things for it. And I just spent hours and hours and hours. Because there was no, like, YouTube tutorials or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anything like that. And it was like Fruity Loops 3, I think. So it was a little barbaric,
yeah,
in its function and its aesthetic, but yeah. And then I just started, and then I realized I was a lot better at that than I was at rapping. I mean, I don't know, it was pretty good. I still have Rolling Stone's 53rd best song of, what was it, 2015 or 16?
No way.
Yeah, I did the hook on Pusha Man. It was originally my song with 2 verses on it, and I was playing it in the car, and dude was like, "What's this?" And I was like, "This me." And he was like, "What? Send me this without the verses on it." And I was like, "Well, what about if I just leave 1 verse on?" He was like, "No." He's like, "The hook, for sure.
Yeah.
Leave the hook on, but take them verses off."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, cool." But I mean, I'm still out here. Me and Nico did an album called Intellectual like 3 years ago or something like that, and it was
I'm behind. I gotta check that.
Yeah, it was us trying our hand at, you know, the singer songwriter chops, and it went well. We got Grammy nom.
No way.
Yeah, for the artwork for our friend 1000. He created. It's pretty crazy what he did. Like, we had a bunch of conversations or whatever, and then we talked about a new way to represent people in the credits. And like how to accurately and also visually show people's contributions. And so he came up with this like shape and color system that created different images per song based on who played on it, what they played, and how they played it. And so the whole album has like this artwork and booklet that like go along to it, and that was what the Grammy nomination was for.
Crazy.
For the artwork for it. It
Sick.
was really, really good. Juan really.
I can't wait to check that out. You got to show me.
Yeah,
after
I'll bring
finish
you.
this
We
up.
have it on vinyl.
Cool.
I'll bring you one on vinyl.
Cool.
Yeah.
I would love that.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, so I mean, it's been a back and forth of doing both the music side and the writing and singing or performing or whatever, like.
Yeah, since 14.
Yeah, since 14. Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go. Let's try to run through like the full history of that. So 14, 15, you're making your first stuff, starting to produce some Fruity Loops.
Yeah.
Are there more things? Like, are you starting to is Fruity Loops 3? Like Fruity Loops is one of the programs I really still haven't gotten into. Are you recording audio into that as well, or that's just
No?
Okay, so that's just
Definitely not
production. Okay,
Yeah, Acid Pro.
Okay,
was where we did all the recording.
so that's where the pivot came from. I forgot what the other program was that you said.
Fruity Loops.
No, but even before that.
Wave Recorder.
Wave Recorder.
Yeah.
So pivoted out of Wave Recorder
to the loops.
Yeah.
Where I was just making beats, and then we would bounce them on a CD, and then we were still doing the Wave Recorder thing. We did that for like a year.
Yeah.
Like, it was ridiculous. And then then it was like, okay, well, we got to figure something. And then the high school we went to had like a computer lab or whatever, and they had this program called Sony Acid because it was for incorporating audio into like video. It was basically like there was a video screen, and then there was like kind of looked like Pro Tools where there was like tracks.
Sure.
You know what I mean, or whatever. Which is why I also think that like transitioning into Pro Tools was hella easy for me.
Sure.
Because it just aesthetically already kind of looked the same. It kind of made sense already.
Sure.
But I mean, it was really like simple, but it did the job. It worked in blocks. I think Clams Casino still uses it.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so you're finding basically like one piece at a time moving forward. Okay, we are fixing this problem. We need beats. I'm going to make beats. I'm going to do it in this software. I need to figure out how to record better. We got this software.
Yeah. Then it was like, all right, now we got to get mics. And we
Yeah.
learned about mics, and we learned about a preamp and what phantom power was. And, and then I bought this like little tiny like miking book that was like.
So mostly books and magazines and shit? Was that how
books,
you kinda...
magazines, and trial by error,
Sure. And then that evolves to the point where now you're like, okay, cool, we got this set up.
Yeah.
We're running this for X period of time.
Yeah, and we were at my homie's crib for a long time, and then as I started to like just acquire, every birthday, every Christmas was, can I get this? Can I get that? Like, I want one of these, and to the point where it was like, I kind of had a decent little, makeshift
studio.
setup in the basement.
Cool.
And then we started to get things like drum sets and like guitars and, and then it kind of turned into like not just like a studio, but we kicked it there like often.
Yeah.
And there was like cellar doors so we could enter and exit like separately all through high school.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's great.
For us, yeah.
And then at what point do you start to see, hey, let's make an album or let's make a project or let's finish a single and like we're going to release it?
Oh, we did that
right
all
out
the time.
gate?
Yeah, we did that right out the gate.
And that was
We
just,
burnt like
okay.
50 copies, tried to sell them all through school. Yeah, that was immediate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sick. And did anybody, was that eventually evolved into like we're going to start doing shows?
Yeah.
Promoting?
Yeah, so after the first guy that I had made music with, me and another guy named Alex Prutz, who goes by Chrome, we had a group called Rusty Angels. It was an underground hip-hop duo, and we made a bunch of albums, like conceptual albums. Like, we were really big into the Mars Volta, so we would try to do like transitions like that were hella trippy, and like he would always have these really crazy dreams, and he would just basically write them down and then explain them to me, and we would just make songs about like his crazy ass dreams and
cool
shit. And it was fun. It was like, it was our thing.
Yeah.
And that was like really important.
Sure.
So we put a lot of time into it,
So that obviously is the beginning of what now grows, and you go to Cleveland and you're starting to have like a full on studio. You link with some people. Was it through school that you kind of connected to? Was it Wayne, the guy that you said was like kind of the OG?
Yeah.
The first guy?
Well, I mean, I was doing the like work study, and the guy that I was working for, this dude Mark, he was one of the like teachers at the school or whatever. He had his own studio in Cleveland, and he was like, "Would you want to come help out at my spot?" And I was like, "Yeah, for sure." And then that's when I started to like meet some more people, and then started operating out of my dorm room, which was basically just a computer and a mic. And I would try to sneak into the school every once in a while, and take some people with me or whatever. But,
Sure.
Yeah, and then I left Cleveland, and I thought I was coming back to Scottsdale to I was going to community college. I thought, I don't know, I'll figure it out later, Excuse me. Some girl stuff.
Sure.
And then I got a call. I was working at Carson's Tavern, and I got a phone call from a guy named Truth. Big Truth.
Ironic.
Full
circle moment.
Full circle moment. Great guy, and he had kind of like a tiny little label that he was getting going out of Cleveland called Playground Bully Music. And he had an artist named Tezo and somebody else. I don't know. There was a couple people, and he called me and he was like, "Yo, are you?" Because while I was in Cleveland, I had met a guy named Matt Jaffe, and we started a production duo. At first we were called the Bob Ross Band because we got assigned a project where we had to remix a theme song or something like that. So we obviously picked the Bob Ross song, which I feel like somebody told me who played that, and it was like Bob James or somebody. It was like some big ass jazz cat. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, so we did that, and we made a beat together, and we were like, "Yo, what's happening here? Like, this is tight as fuck." And so whatever, we were like, "All right, we're the Bob Ross Band." We put out one song and got hit with a cease and desist from the Bob Ross company, and we were like, they saw that? Like, holy shit. Like, all right, cool, whatever. And then so we sat down and we were like just rambling off things to each other. And then out of his mouth, he just said all day recess. And I was like, oh, what? Absolutely. So, let me go back. Let me go back to Carson's. I'm at Carson's. I get a call from Truth. He's like, "Yo, are you Nate? Were you doing some Bob Ross Band shit or whatever?" And then he was like, "You got to change the name." And then that's when we did the. But anyway, he calls and he's like, "Yo, are you this thing? Blah blah blah. I want to sign you to a situation out here." And so obviously at the time, like hearing anybody use the phrase "sign," was like, "Oh my god,
I made it.
I did it." So I'm like calling my parents. I'm like, "I'm going back to Cleveland. Like, it's happening." Blah 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 blah. And not to say that like he's not a bad guy or anything like that, but it was like, now that I really know about music business and music industry and stuff, like, it was laughable at best, you know, like, especially like on the paperwork side and like all that, like it was just jokes, you know?
Yeah.
But we worked really hard, and it got me an opportunity to come back to Cleveland, got a little crib, set up the studio in the basement. And that's when I really started to like meet a lot of people. Like, that's when I met MGK and worked on the very first Lace Up mixtape. I did 2 records on there.
Crazy.
Yeah. And Chip and like all those guys, like everybody started to hear about this white dude that lived in the basement in Cleveland Heights. Like, and everybody would just show, there was a side door and people would just come and knock on a door like 2-3 in the morning. And they knew that if they came with some like Red Bulls and some weed, like I'm up.
Yeah.
I'm with it, you know? And that was like real grind time.
Totally.
And, made absolutely no money. So I worked at like Hollister at the mall or some stupid shit like that. And then Nordstrom Rack. That was a sick job, actually. I kind of liked working at the Rack because like you could get discounts and anyway. But yeah. And then at a certain point, oh man, this is where things kind of like get fuzzy. Because like, there's this weird time period where I'm like back and forth from Cleveland and Pittsburgh, and like, so that whole window of time is just kind of like murky in my head as far as like
how things
happened and like how they, like, even as I'm like sitting here talking them through, I'm like, wait, did that happen before this or after? You know what I
Sure.
mean? Like, I was like, I don't even fucking know.
Yeah.
But yeah, after the playground bully stuff, we had formed our own situation with like me and Tez and our new friend Trap Money Benny and 1000, and we got a house together and we all lived in this house, and we basically like, I mean, we were kind of like taking over like music in Cleveland. Like, we had a big song on the radio called Dinner Date with Tez and RIP, our friend Kimball, who got murdered by the Cleveland police.
Damn.
That's a whole other story. But, man, every time I talk about that, I just he had so much potential. It was crazy. Like, he was really like the better 2 Chainz. And I'm sorry, I love 2 Chainz. I don't mean any disrespect to 2 Chainz at all, but I just mean like to have those like witty, clever, funny bars and stuff that like were still hard as fuck. Like, Kenny just had it, and like the melodies that he would come up, like he just fucking had it, and it was just like such a tragedy when that shit happened. But whatever, we had a house, and like we were crushing it, and things fall apart, man.
Yeah. Things
fall apart. There was a combination of like some bad relationships between some people, and one night I'm skipping a bunch of stuff, but we had gone to South by, and that's where I met Chance, and they were doing a show in Bowling Green, and they came by the house, and we went out and we got hella drunk and shit, and I just knew where Chance was going. I just knew what it was, because he had just sent me like juice back, and I was like, fuck, dude.
Yeah, this is so good.
And then I got drunk as shit, and I fucking freaked out on everybody in the house. Like, everybody was in the living room, and I was just like, y'all don't want this shit. It was a tough day.
I'm sure.
It was a tough day, but I think it was like Chance has told me before, like that was a catalyst for like our relationship too, of like seeing that like I meant that shit.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it also helped like Juan and Benny and like not everybody, but it helped them be like,
yeah.
Yeah. You know, and then everybody kind of like split ways. Some people stayed in Cleveland. Some people left. I left. I went and did construction in Ebensburg, Pennsylvania.
What was that like?
I had my first panic attack ever because I lived in... So basically what it was is like, I was like maybe 22, 23 or something like that. And after like I was coming home, my dad came to get me from the house or whatever, and I was like, all right, cool, like, you know, I'll just stay at the crib for a little bit until I can figure out. He was like, stay at the crib. He's like, you're a grown ass man. You can't stay here. The fuck? So but he did help me get a job, and the company he was working at they own and operate nursing homes, so they also have like a construction company. And they were doing construction on one of their older facilities in Ebensburg. And it was almost like a college campus. Like, it was really, really big. And so they were doing renovations, like complete renovations on one of the buildings, and had moved all of the patients to the other buildings. So my dad worked it out with the head of the construction people that I could live in the wing that we were doing construction on, but like on the top floor in the last room, you know what I mean, type shit.
Yeah.
And then so in the mornings I wake up at like 6 a.m. I'm basically staying in like a nursing home, but like one that was like built in like the 50s or 40s or something, you know what I mean? It was like decrepit, and like the carpet was like throw up blue, and it was just like ridiculous. Like, it was crazy. They didn't have any internet, because they had to, you know, turn all the electric and everything off. So I didn't have any of my studio stuff anymore. I had to leave it all in Cleveland because it was all bought by the guy that was managing us. So other than like my computer, which I took with me, even though it wasn't I didn't pay for it, but I was like, I did all the work on this bitch. Y'all not getting this shit.
Yeah.
Y'all crazy. I took that shit with me. So I had that and an iHome speaker. And I would get up at 6 a.m, go basically down the stairs, and start busting up walls until whatever, 5, 6 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
there was 2 restaurants in Ebensburg that would deliver. I didn't have a car. I didn't have anything. And it was always like pizza, fast, like Italian food or whatever the fuck. Eat a bunch of that shit and then try to make beats. Like physically force myself to I was like ready to just quit.
Yeah.
And then
it's a pressured circumstance. Right
there. I mean, I was making good money. Like I was making union rate.
Yeah.
And not in the union. So it was pretty fucking spicy. Like,
yeah.
And every weekend I would have one of the guys from the construction crew drive me into the city of Pittsburgh, where they would drop me off at my friend Fitz's house. Me and Fitz would play FIFA, kick it, and then he would take me to the Megabus in the morning. I would take the Megabus from Pittsburgh to Chicago, meet up with Chance, work on acid rap till like Sunday evening, take the Megabus directly back to Pittsburgh, where dude would pick me up again from Fitz's house to take me directly to work at 6 a.m.
Fucking hell.
Yeah. And then
what a crazy loop.
Yeah, so I did that for like 2 or 3 months, and I was just like losing it. Like I was just losing my fucking mind.
I'm sure.
I remember having the panic attack, and like I walked out of the room into the hallway, and it was like the whole room just like the whole hallway just went and I couldn't feel myself breathe, and like it was fucking crazy. And there's nobody there. I'm like at a fucking hospital basically, and there's nobody there to help me because I'm in the construction wing. I was like, I'm dying.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm gonna die. It's fine. Here we go. But I made it through. It was fine. And then literally like 2 days after that happened, I got a phone call from Jeff Vaughn. Do you know Jeff Vaughn?
I don't think so.
So Jeff Vaughn is a power player in the game.
Okay.
And at the time he was like the right hand of Mike Karen over at Atlantic.
Okay.
And he called me and he was like, "Hey, is this Nate Fox?" And I was like, "Yeah, who's this?" He's like, "Hey, my name's Jeff Vaughn. I'm over at Atlantic. Did you work on this acid rap project?" And I was like, "Yeah, did that come out?" And he was like, "Do you have the internet?" And I was like, "No." And he was like, "What?" He was like, "You need to go get on the internet right now and go see what the fuck is happening right now, because it's pretty fucking crazy."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay." He was like, "And then call me back." I was like, "All right, cool." So as I'm like kind of getting my shit together to like walk into town, because they had like an internet cafe, and I'm walking into town, I get a call from Josh Fisher, and we had met in Cleveland. He was managing an artist named Clevey Cleve. Great guy as well. And Fish called me, and he was like, "Hey, long time." I'm like, "Yeah, hey man, what's going on?" He was like, Did you do a project for Lorene Chia called Lorene?" And I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Dude, everybody over here at Interscope is like chatting up about this girl," and like I'm like, "Damn, I know this guy." He's like, "Let me call you right back." And I was like, "Oh, damn, I just got 2 phone calls about 2 completely separate projects. Like, that's fucking sick." And then Fish called me back, and he was like, "Swear you did acid rap." I was like, yeah, I worked on that one. And he was like, "Where are you?" And I was like, "I'm in Ebensburg." He was like, "What? What are you doing?" "I'm doing construction." "What? No, bro. Send me your information. I got a flight for you tomorrow. Like, you're never going to have to work construction ever again." And he got me, because in that time period of when I met him to that phone call, he had been out here in LA, like doing internships and like working with Steve Stout and like really getting his hands dirty. And like, Fish is a good fucking dude. And like,
absolutely,
he gets the job done. And especially, I'm sure when he was in intern mode, he was like hustling. Times 10 hustling. Yeah, you know what I mean? So everybody fucks with him because he's like a good dude that does good business, and like he really respects people and like shows them a lot of love and shit. So everybody answered his phone call when he was like, "Yo, I got this dude Nate Fox. He worked on the acid rap shit. Like, we want to have a meeting." Everybody fucking took his phone call. I must have went to like 30 meetings with like everybody from up here to like, independent companies and shit like that. We ended up over at Disney because I really liked Mio, and I thought that he had a really cool vision for where Disney music could have went.
And how'd it go?
I like Mio a lot. Mio's a really good dude, and I think he had a great vision for
Yeah,
Disney
say
music.
less.
I wish they would have let me. I wish they just would have believed what I said.
Yeah.
Because I tried to bring them people really early on that I thought could have helped mold and shape
Sure.
Disney in the way that they wanted to be, which was, I think, on the forefront of music. Like the same way they are with like animation and all the other things that Disney does so well. It's like, why not do the same thing with music? Like, no offense to R5, but like, y'all suck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's not like anybody's fault other than like Disney putting the money towards that.
Sure.
When it was like, yo, I'm fucking with this dude Drum. I think he would be great, and he would work great in, like, you could give this dude a show.
Totally.
They were like, nah. All right, well, what about Kehlani? Like, she's already done the kind of like pop circuit. Like, she would be fucking amazing as a like if Disney's trying to rebrand,
Yeah.
or at least their music department side of it.
Yeah.
Like, this is ideal.
Yeah.
They're like, nah. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, just what? They wanted to give her some, like, when they told me what they wanted to offer her, I was like, I would never even insult her
Yeah.
in that way.
Bringing that up.
Like,
as a
bring that up. Like,
conversation.
that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the last person I tried to get to them was Kyle. And I was like, if this doesn't scream
Disney.
Disney, then I don't know what the fuck y'all really want to do. And they were like, I'm like, bro, I'm good.
Yeah.
I'm good. And then I just like kind of stopped taking calls from them and emails from them, and they kind of stopped calling me and emailing me. And then one day me and Mio just had a conversation, and it was just like, it didn't work. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, let's not make this a big fucking thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like,
Was that a publishing deal at the time, or that was an artist deal, or okay?
No, it was a publishing deal.
Gotcha.
And, you know, we ended on good terms.
Cool.
You know, and we're still cool with them, and like, you know, we still have to do business with them, and
Sure.
you know how retention periods work, and you know, all that stuff. But
crazy, dude.
yeah.
So when you talked to Fish that second time, that flight that he got you was to LA, and that brought you out here, and that's when you started working
Straight to LA, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what was it besides getting in with like Disney? Was that like you're in another place where you set up a studio in home? Or are you working in another spot? Like, what was that initial?
The initial thing was flying with my. Well, I didn't have anything. I could just take meetings. I didn't have anything because I had a PC tower.
Right.
So there was like I wasn't gonna fly on the plane with it or anything. So I came out, did all the meetings. Then after we realized, all right, well, I'm definitely getting some deal from somewhere.
Sure.
But just went back to PA, put all my shit in a rental car, picked up my homie in Cleveland, and we just drove out here. And then I took my PC tower to all my sessions for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did like Atlantic put me up in like their A room or whatever, and I just remember being in there with a big old PC tower and trying it out.
Yeah. How was the move here? How'd you like being here when you first got here?
Loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was great.
What
Especially at that time, because, you know what I mean? Like, everybody wanted to talk to us. Everybody wanted to answer our phone calls. So
what year was that when you first got to LA? Like 15, 14?
14, 15.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
So I feel like that's probably about when I met you.
Yeah. I mean, because you came extremely recommended by a bunch of people. I was just like, every session I was just, you know, I was also trying to ask around like what studios people be at and like all that stuff, and like all the guys I fucked with were like, yeah, we'd be over at Truth.
That was a crazy era.
Yeah.
You know, like that like 2014 to like 2017 window. There was a couple. There was one that was really awesome when I first got started here, like 2008 to 2011 also, which was kind of like our underground LA artists are popping. There's like the, you know, the New West circuit is coming up, and that was like the Pactive, you and I, Dom Kennedy, Teron and Ao Mari, like all, you know, Overdose, like all these guys just were like,
we knew about that shit in Cleveland,
yeah,
and Pittsburgh,
and then I connected with Chuck when Chuck moved here from Chicago, and it was like, oh shit, now that whole scene is on fire. And it was like, you know, Chance and Vic and everybody else that came through that whole circuit, and just seeing all these things just kind of like popping off. And this place just kind of became like an epicenter of like just the crossroads for anybody coming to LA, you know? And so it was fucking awesome for that moment in, you know, music history time.
I remember bringing Addie here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I used to see, every time I would see Joey, I would play Joey Badass. I would play him some new thing that I made, recorded recently, whatever, at the studio, because he just loved music. And I remember playing him that, I remember when we're fucking. Yeah. And everybody was, oh, this shit's crazy. Yeah. I love, man. Every now and again, we'll still shoot a message back and forth.
Bro, I fucking love Joey Badass. We did one session like really early on in LA, and it was like cool. It was really just us like kind of kicking it and smoking, like kind of cooking up. I was always really nervous in those situations early on, because I was always like really meticulous, and I never wanted to like sit there and like, I see how the LA scene works. Like it's like you got 3 hours to make as many demos as you possibly can. Yeah. You know, so I was like always really nervous. So we didn't really like do much music. And then I left, and then literally like a year or two later, we're in New York, and I think we were there to do SNL or something like that. And we like all went out, and we were going to this bar, and I look across the street, and I see Joey Badass come out of the bar from across the street. And I didn't know, like, yeah, because the session was so like, you know, just vanilla. I didn't think like to like even like say what's up. So I just like saw him or whatever. And then he looked up and he saw me. He goes, Nate Fox, yo. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, how nice of a person do you have to be to like remember that?
Dude, he is a gem. He is a real
gem. And then we fucking had some drinks. And the craziest part was when I went in the bar, there was a girl from Cleveland was in there that I knew.
Wow.
That I hadn't seen since Cleveland either. And I'm pretty sure that they were hanging out too. Like she knew Joey somehow. Like it was just like
crazy.
There's been so many moments like that too. Like, yeah. And that's like why this place is tight though, is because like a lot of people could probably say they either met somebody here or they heard about somebody from here. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it sparked a whole other relationship, a whole other situation outside of Truth Studio, you know?
I mean, that was always, and it still remains a big goal for me, is connecting people who I feel like should be connected, or showing people something that they should be aware of. You know, I mean, it's been like a blessing and a curse to have met so many people, and honestly, so many really great people, that it's been overwhelming to the point where I just can't manage communication with people. You know, and like, it's like, there's so many layers to like how all that stuff ebbs and flows, and you just see somebody, you know, just like their career just all of a sudden is just like launching into the stratosphere, and you're just like, oh man, like I'm so happy for that fucking person, you know. Like I wish that we still were able to have that relationship 7 years ago, and it would be like every time I come to LA I call you, I pull up, but then you just realize like, damn, your life just changed for forever, and like you probably don't have a free minute.
Yeah, that's how I feel about Yeti and Doja. There's like, it was like
exactly.
So crazy to watch that happen. Yeah, to like go from like pulling up to the studio every day, and like Doja's just sitting on the couch, just like on her notepad or doing whatever, and she's just like there. To like where we are now, you know what I mean? Like, but to the steps that they took along the way, like, and the things that Yeti did, like behind closed doors to make this situation what it was like, he's really, I think that he's going to be a really storied story. Sure. You know, when the annals of history write. Yeah. You know, I think he's going to have a pretty strong chapter in that book, because he's been involved in a lot of music that's been really influential in a lot of ways that I don't think a lot of people. Same with Carter. I think Carter's another person that's like
100%, dude.
You know, and they're so good at being mysterious and yet being like in the front.
Yeah.
Because they literally only care about making cool tunes.
Yeah.
Like they're genuinely good dudes that just like making good tunes.
100%, man. I remember when I first met Carter in that same window, probably 2014, 2015, I was working with Cam and Damo Genesis, and Cam brought Carter in to come play bass. And it was just like, wow. I mean, honestly, all three of them to me are just superior, talented, incredible humans.
When's the last time you talked to Cam?
I talk to Cam very often.
Oh, okay, cool. So did you go to the wet?
Maybe like 2 weeks ago. No, I missed the wedding. I literally have, it sits like on the desk upstairs. I have like the picture of like him and his wife in front of the tree. Like, you know, like I talk to him. We play phone tag from time to time, but I would say we probably talk a minimum of like a couple times a month.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good, man.
And I'm hoping, I mean, I've just been all over the place with like trying to get on the road to go visit some folks in their new environments, and I'm very excited to go to New Mexico and check in with them and meet her and see what he's got going on. You know, we still keep in touch. Like, he wants me to engineer all of his music, so when he gets his spot finalized, like, we're back in trying to get his kind of debut album all wrapped up. And you know, but those sessions, man, every now and again I'll have demos that play on my phone or something when I'm driving around, and that there's a couple songs from those first sessions where it's just like such special moments, you know, like it brings back like such crazy vivid memories, and it's just like, man, this shit is so fucking good. Yeah. And it's just like such like the little treats along the way that are just like so fucking special. But I'll tap in with Carter randomly here and there. It's mainly because I'll be working with somebody who will bring him up, and then I'll just FaceTime him, check in, see what he's doing. He's always got some random fucking new piece of gear that does some crazy shit, some old vintage thing he figured out how to freak in some way. And
he told you about the vinyl cutter he bought?
No, I haven't talked to him since he got that. Like a single unit thing. Yeah. I was trying to find one of those. It's funny. I was literally just talking to Abraham about that like yesterday down here. At one point in time, I really wanted to turn this into like an all-out artist manufacturing plant to just be like cool music upstairs, manufacturing downstairs, and do cassette tape manufacturing, CD manufacturing, vinyl manufacturing, and then merchandise manufacturing, get like a screen printer and just fill this whole place up with tools to say, hey, we just made an album, an EP, a single, whatever, come in, we'll do your merch. But it's just one of 1,000 things that were ideas that just didn't take shape because money, manpower, time, whatever. And, you know, I just am like a slave to the studio cave. Just like my favorite place to be, you know. But yeah, there are people like that come into just being phenomenal fucking musical genius type people who just, especially those two, like are mad recluse, but just work on some of the coolest shit, you know? Yeah.
And do a great job.
Yeah. So when you guys eventually got your spot here, was Carter a part of that studio that you guys got? Was it you, Nico, and Peter? I'm trying to remember how long ago that was.
Well, the Surf Studio.
Yeah.
So we'd kind of like call them by like whatever albums we were primarily working on. So the Surf Studio, the one that was above the German restaurant, that was just me and Nico. Okay. Really, it was just me, but
Nico was working there.
Yeah, we were there we were there every day.
Sure.
You know? And that place was really fucking dope because we just left the door open. It was right in the middle of everything, and so people would just like pop up all the time. Like we would have little barbecues and shit, like, and you know, there was a lot of really cool people that showed up. Yeah. Like that's the first time I met Frank Ocean. Like Nico invited him over and he actually came, and
sick.
He was at our barbecue and it's fucking dope. Like Janelle Monáe came there one time with like the whole collection of like people that she fucks with, like Jadena and Silk Cotton, and they basically like they had like a whole presentation for us.
No way.
Yeah, it was fucking dope. First of all, they were all dressed up. We're all in there in like sweats, like looking like shit, smelling like straight dope. And they came in like suited and booted, smelled amazing, you know, like looked incredible. And they like it in increments. like each artist would like play a few songs, but then they'd all have like choreographed dances for every song.
Wow.
And they would like be hidden little moves or like doing background vocals in certain parts. Like it was like a whole presentation, and it was just like, I'll never forget that shit because it was so cool.
Yeah.
And it was right before Jadena put out that Classic Man. He played us Classic Man, and they did the whole Classic Man dance and shit, and it was just like, dude, this is tight. Yeah, this shit tight. But yeah, no, so that studio was basically me and Nico, and then we left that spot. I don't remember why. I think the guy who owned it, his name is Shep, and he had done a bunch of Britney Spears songs like back in the day, so he had the gear there was like super nice and all the guitars and stuff. I think he was like a cokehead, and so one day he like showed up like while we were in the studio at like 4 a.m. and was just fucking blasted and like freaked out on us for like smoking weed inside or something like that, and we were like, what the fuck? So we just left. And then we went to the studio with Yeti because I guess, somebody was like recommended. I did a session with Third Story with Ben and Elliot and Richard, and it was at Yeti and Doja's studio, like over by Dodger Stadium, I think it was, and they had, and I did a session there, and then so whenever we went to move, I was asking around like whatever, and Yeti was like, the upstairs of this place is open. So we're like, all right, cool. So we get into there, and that was great. That was Coloring Book Studio, and we worked a lot with like Francis in that space and Frank again, and it's where we made most of Grace Weber's album, and it was like a really fun time, and like people showed up. That was another place people would just show up, and like
sure.
We made the Drum album there and like a bunch of other just like really fun stuff.
Yeah.
And then we had to leave that spot because that building is like a big strip of like different stuff. So we were in the back of the building, and in the front of the building on the top floor across from us, like on the other side of the wall, was this like stylist lady. And one day the biggest client she was ever going to get, Jennifer Aniston, was coming. And I guess Jennifer walked into the stylist studio and was like, smells like weed in here, and left. So the stylist lady immediately like came and like put it all on us, and like we were like, what, bitch? We in LA, like what the fuck are you talking about? Smells like weed. Like it smells like weed outside.
Yeah.
And I hate that because I love Jennifer Aniston, but man, fuck that bitch.
Yeah.
Because like that would have been raw to still
have that spot.
Yeah, to still have that spot, and also like have maintained that relationship with Yeti and them. Like, that shit kind of fucked things up a little bit. And like, I've since reached out to Yeti and like apologized and like, and I don't think he really cares, to be honest, but it could have went differently.
Did they stay in that spot, or did they have to leave also?
I think they stayed there for a little bit.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I don't think they had to leave because I think he was pretty cool with like the landlord or something like that.
Sure.
Yeah. And then we were like, well, fuck, what are we going to do? And our friend Matt over at Concord was like, yo, there's a room open at Sound City, and it's like $1,500 a month.
Wow.
With electricity. It was like 4 rooms.
That's
Have you ever been to
insane.
the Sound Cities?
No.
That's where I'm at still. But
crazy.
Yeah, it's fucking great. So that's where I'm at now. But
sick.
It's just me now that Nico, moved back to Chicago. Yeah.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So that kind of brings us up to current times.
Yeah.
What are you cooking on now? What's kind of like the main things you've been excited about? How was COVID for you and all that shit?
Didn't change. Nothing changed.
Okay.
I mean,
I know. Yeah,
I just
that's most of us. Yeah.
Kept doing sessions and kept working on music and like, whatever.
Sure.
Didn't really.
It's like our common lifestyle is pretty much like whether COVID's
happening or
not.
I like live inside of COVID all the time anyway, so it's like whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't really go a lot of places.
Yeah.
I'll pop out every once in a while, but for the most part, I'm at the crib, I'm at the studio.
Yeah.
So, it didn't It didn't really change much. But as far as what's going on now, we're doing some really interesting stuff with Super Duper Kyle. I mean, the thing I'm like super gassed in right now is like still working with like friends, like people that I know, but getting them to do shit that like they don't normally do, or like really get them to switch it up. So with Kyle, we're doing like a drum and bass garage type project. Since the big day, me and Shawn Mendes have become really good friends.
Cool.
And we've been just kind of chatting and like sharing music with each other and stuff along the way. And like, I think that he's really cool for one, taking the journey that he's on right now, because like it's so easy, especially for people that are in a position of great success like that, to become very complacent and just kind of do the same things and like rely on the machine to, you know, keep it going.
Yeah.
And he was like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
I want to do music that like somebody like Frank Ocean would be like,
I love this.
I love this song.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or
Totally.
like he just wants to like, it's like, bro, like I got into music like he was like, I got into music from like covering acoustic songs on fucking Vine.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm like the grandfather of TikTok at this point, you know? And it's of like, that's how people get signed now. It's like,
Yeah.
you just do some shit on TikTok and you get signed because you got the monthly listeners or the whatever, you know? And he was like, I don't want to operate from that space anymore.
Yeah.
I want to create with a purpose, like on you know what I mean? And he told me the craziest shit. I mean, maybe it's not that crazy, but I think it's crazy. He was like, I've never been in a session with more than one producer at a time. He's like, I've never had a song that had more than 2 producers on it.
Crazy.
I was like, bro.
Yeah, salute to that though in a way.
Yeah, and so when he
that's
came
really
to
impressive to do that at that level.
Yeah, and then when he came to Chicago, well, it's like good and bad.
I mean, it's not artistically like you're not like artistically free to explore all these different styles with different people, but at the same time, for me, like I'm impressed by that. Like the Harry Styles album that came out last year is probably like the same way, and it just to me, it's more like the true artistic craft of minimal amounts of people creating versus like the Beyonce album that's got like a Bible book full size of credits for the people who made the 24 songs or whatever, because there's 70 producers and 70 songwriters, and you know, like you're just kind of like chopping up all these people's ideas versus like, oh man, it's me and this guy, you know, and like we just had great chemistry and worked this out ourselves and did something fucking phenomenal. Yeah. But yeah,
that's great too.
Yeah.
That's great. The point is that I don't think that even in those situations, the good stuff is just 2 people.
Yeah.
I don't care what it says on the credits. Like there was other people coming in the room. There was other people playing stuff. Like they might not be on the Spotify credits, but if we still bought that CD, they in the liner notes.
Yeah.
You know? So the point is that it doesn't offer the space for the songs or the music to go as far as it can go.
Sure.
I don't care how good you are as an individual. You will never be as good as the best person of this thing and the best person of this thing coming together to make a thing.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like, that's just science, bro. Like, if you can just have your mind be focused on the thing that you're great at and have somebody else do that on their side, and then have somebody who's great at bringing all that shit together, bring it together, that's the best. That's as good as it gets. Like, but it requires that person in the middle. It requires the artist to have that deeper vision.
Sure.
And I think that's what he's searching for. He's searching for that like deeper vision of like purpose of music. Like, why am I doing this? What do I do this for? What is my message? Like, you know? Yeah. And I think that I admire that. Like, he's 24 years old.
That's crazy.
He's literally a fucking kid, and he's extremely successful. And he's like, nah, it's not enough. Yeah. It's not right. You know, like that's a cool thing for some random kid from Canada to do. Yeah. You know? Yeah. So I fuck with him on that. And so I mean, I don't know what my role is in like things moving forward, but you know,
even just the friendship.
Just like being like, yo, bro, you can literally say whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care. I probably have already heard it, you know? So, like, just feel like be in a free space here. Like, I don't have any ownership of Shawn Mendes.
Yeah.
Or the music, or like, you know what I mean? I have no stake in your life.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to like listen and talk through whatever it is that's going on, because I admire the position that you're in, and still this is your thought process.
Yeah.
You know, like that to me is just interesting. And if I could be a safe space for those thoughts and ideas, cool.
Yeah.
And if we make some tunes, we make some tunes. You know, like he sends me demos and stuff, and I'll freak them or flex them or push them in different directions or whatever. But you know, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Are you planning on staying in LA for the foreseeable future?
I might have like 2 more years in me, and then I need to go back to the woods. Oh, me and Nico and Colleen went on a road trip at the top of last year, and I think it was a real, like, everybody was kind of in a super transitional space for different reasons, but I think it just made, like, Nico was like, yeah, man, I want to live in the city.
Yeah.
Like,
I get that.
Yeah. Like,
yeah.
I'm a city guy. And I was like, yeah, man. Like, because we were in, like, Oregon and parts of, like, the mountains of Arizona and Colorado. And, like, we were just outside, you know?
Sure.
And I was just like, man, this feels so much better. This feels so much more like home. And,
yeah.
like, I don't know. I miss it. I wouldn't mind, like, a place like Seattle, you know, where it's like I could be 20, 30 minutes outside of a major city and really feel like I'm kind of in nature.
Yeah.
You know, type shit. Like,
sure. That's kind of what I'm looking for, but I'm trying to see if I can find that in Europe somewhere, because I got the explorer adventurer bug hard right now.
I love England. I'd love to live in England at some point.
I have a really close friend who lives in England, and another like mentor of mine who lives south of London in England, and he's building like an insane studio. He's been like a gearhead mentor for me for 7 or so years. So I'm like, okay, cool. That base is like covered, and I can go like, my friend Carl who lives there was like, yo, you can come stay with me for 6 months. Like, everything's covered, like food, place to live, all that, studio, and we'll just make music.
Yeah.
So I'm like, great, I have that base. Let me find out where else I can be and see if I can set up something similar to that, so that when he wants to, he can come meet me in Vienna or Amsterdam or some shit like that and stay there, and we'll have 2 different flavors of things and try to expand a network. But I just love the fact that like the train system there makes life so easy to just like be in like an entirely new world, hearing an entirely different language, seeing an entirely different culture, having an entirely different climate, and like that can be like yours for $30-$40, you know. Like,
all this could be yours.
yeah, but it's insane, you know. And I found like certain Airbnbs that I was staying in for like $60 a night. Like, it's not that difficult or that crazy to pull that off.
The English countryside is nice, bro.
I gotta move my car real quick. Let me pause
Cool.
for 2 seconds.
I'm gonna go smoke a cig.
Cool.
The English countryside is nice as fuck, though, bro.
I'm all for exploring any given. Got any kind of like favorite moments that if you think back on, or just like magical little things that stand out? I always hate those questions because I feel like there's such an abundance of those. It's always difficult to be like,
yeah,
this one session was the best. It's like,
well,
man.
I mean, there's definitely stuff that's like I met Randy. I did a session with Randy Newman.
Oh man, that's so fucking cool.
Like I don't really know. It's that.
Yeah. That's amazing, man. That was one of the earlier concerts that I ever went to.
Mm.
And what a fucking special dude.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Man. He's so sharp.
Yeah.
Like, he's so witty and clever, and even though like he's older, you know, his body was definitely not as witty and clever and sharp.
Sure.
But his mind was very impressive, you know.
And I feel like that's like generationally like one of the most impressive songwriters to like ever do music pound for pound.
Yeah. Yeah. I got to ask, I don't normally like to ask people like stuff about their work or, you know what I mean?
Sure.
Whatever. But like, he has this one song called Losing You, and it's just gut wrenching. And the strings on it are just like one of the best string arrangements I've ever heard. So I had to ask him 2 questions. I was like, who arranged the strings? He was like, me. And I was like, fuck. And then I was like, what is this like song about? And he was like, I met this Jewish family, this Jewish couple, and we were just kind of talking, and they said they were telling him their story and how they had escaped the Holocaust and all the things they had to do, and like they were able to get to America, and you know, they started a family and they were working, and like they really struggled, and they really got through, like they got over kind of like everything that had happened.
Sure.
And then their son died in some kind of like tragic accident.
Crazy.
And so they said, you know, like we can get over the Holocaust and we can get over the struggle of coming to America, but we'll never get over losing our son.
Yeah, that's a fucking tragically deep fucking story.
Yeah. And if you listen to the song, like he makes a kind of a reference to it, but then he'll go into also what that is to him.
Yeah.
You know, like what that would mean to him, like what he would lose that he could just never get over.
Sure.
You know, and this is a really great song.
One thing I wanted to circle back on was like all the touring and all the traveling now as an adult,
Mm-hmm.
doing that more or less independently or like with your family of like closest friends at the time. Were there places that stood out to you, or like places that you loved the most, or places that you hated and absolutely would steer clear of ever going back to?
In the States, I have 2 places that have a 3-day max for me. New York City is one of them, and Las Vegas is another one of them.
Las Vegas is definitely one of those for me.
I don't need to go to Florida.
Yeah.
We had probably one of the craziest experiences I can ever have in Florida. We were on tour and we were doing a club in Orlando, I think. And we got there and we got off the bus, and this truck, like there's like, if this is where we're parked at, this is the street in front of us. We're like looking, and this truck comes flying down the road, and at the end of the road is like these train tracks, and he parks on the train tracks, and then a train comes and crushes the car.
Holy shit.
So we were like, holy shit, we need to go do something fun immediately.
Yeah.
So we went to Disney World. We went to like Harry Potter World and all that kind of shit. Something very crucial happened at that day too, which I will tell you about off camera, but that I didn't think about until way later, but it made a lot of sense. But anyway, we have a great time, and as soon as we come back, we get back to the parking lot, this dude comes running out of the club, like damn near fully naked, and there's these security guards that are like chasing him or whatever, and he's very clearly like fucked up on something. And dude runs onto the street. Then now there's like kind of like traffic because the show's about to start. Dude starts like pounding on the hood of a bunch of cars. Then right before the security guards like can kind of grab him, he gets on top of one of the cars, and he does like a pencil dive head first onto the concrete, like torpedo missile, just like just
Jesus Christ. All in the same day?
All in the same day. And then
Oh
we
my
get
God.
inside of this club, and they had double booked the venue. So there's like just as many people as there are inside, there are people outside. And it was just a complete shit show. Like the stage was maybe like the size of this table. Like it was so small, and Greg's got his drum set and Peter's got like 5 keyboards. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
we're just like all crammed next to each other, and like it was just the worst fucking experience. I mean, we still did a great show, but it was just like
Yeah.
the experience was
An unforgettable day at
not
best.
great. Yeah, not great. So in the States, yeah, those are
We're
my
done with
3
Florida.
kind of
Yeah.
ans.
Yeah.
My likes are I really like Arizona.
Okay.
Like I didn't even realize how diverse of a landscape Arizona had.
Sure.
I thought it was mainly like desert and
Yeah.
like shit like that. But then when you get into like Flagstaff or places like a little bit more north, like it gets really beautiful.
Yeah.
I liked that a lot. I liked Denver. I thought Denver was really nice. I like Atlanta. a lot of my Atlanta homies are like, man, I can't wait to get out of Atlanta. I don't want to be in Atlanta, but I kind of like Atlanta. And then overseas, Lisbon, Portugal, I think is Lisbon and London. Those are my two like big overseas places. Like Lisbon was just gorgeous, you know. And to our northern family, the Canadians, I liked Toronto a lot.
Yeah, I was there for the first time in August last year, and
the thing that I like about Toronto is I love like building architecture. Like I love city architecture and stuff too. And Toronto does such a phenomenal job of like blending their modern architecture with their older things. Like we went to it was like a fort or like some kind of castle or something that had been converted into like a shopping center.
Crazy.
And had like a crazy coffee shop in it. And you know what I mean? But they didn't need to like tear it down and build something new. That's what I really was fucking with in Toronto. And it was clean. I don't know if you noticed that too. But, well, I mean, wherever we were, it was like pretty fucking clean for a big ass city.
Dude, I walked all the fuck over that whole city.
Yeah.
Like I put crazy miles in. That was at the end of my trip, and I was walking like, I think one day there I walked like 45,000 steps. Like I literally walked for like 20 something miles. I was just all over, just wanting to see what was there and see different neighborhoods and walk through different areas, and definitely clean for a major city. Stand out as like a clean place.
So like Toronto, Lisbon, London.
Beautiful.
Well,
I feel like we covered a lot. Super stoked that we got to do this, man. Thanks for coming.
Me too. Thank you for inviting me.
And shit, dude, just thank you for everything. Honestly, since I met you, you've always been sending me people and just trying to keep, an awesome like flow of people coming in here, and I can't thank you enough for that.
You're an easy sell.
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.